ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk today about this amazing client that we have, climate, excuse me, that we have right now in real estate that's causing a lot of problems with getting offers submitted, getting your offer accepted, and what to do if you decide to go with another house because they're taking too much time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. One of the big things is going to be how to properly fill out a backup contract. So I kind of want to talk about this just for a quick second, and I'm going to share my screen while I talk about this because doing this backup contract is very, very, very important. So, what is a backup contract? So, a lot of times, especially in SABOR, you'll see something that says active RFR. I can't remember exactly what the RFR stands for, but it's basically saying, hey, we do have a contract on it, but we are taking backups. And so, a backup contract has to be executed properly. And I notice a lot of people doing this the wrong way. They'll send in a contract and just say, hey, by the way, this is a backup contract, and it's all kind of done verbally. That is the incorrect way to do it. You've got to make sure you're doing this right for your client, or it's not going to happen, or you just don't have a leg to stand on. And as you know, as you go through these transactions, people can be very, very ticky-tacky about all the little details. So in order for a backup contract to truly be a backup contract, everything has to be submitted, signed, and money in. And I'm going to walk you through this form. So the first thing with a backup contract is the seller needs to agree to this being a backup contract. Basically, the minute that the regular contract, the first contract falls through, you immediately slide into position, which is great. So in order to do this, you need to have, for the intents and purposes, let's say a 1-to-4 family contract. It can be a condominium contract, whatever it is. But you need your property contract filled out first. It needs to be filled out properly. You need to have all the stuff in there. And what I do want to show you real quick, I probably should have pulled this up sooner, is that on the 1-to-4 family contract, I'm going to pull this down here just so you can see what I'm talking about. There is a small section. Now, guys, this is an old transaction I just pulled up, but just so I could have this in here. But down here at the bottom, the agreement of parties, on here, there is the one that says a addendum for a backup contract. If you are sending in a backup contract, you know you're a backup contract. You need to check this box to make sure that they understand that this 1-to-4 comes with an additional sheet of paper. It's the same thing if you have third-party financing, addendum, all that good stuff. So you've talked to your seller, you talked to the seller's agent, you said, hey, look, they're like, we got it under contract. You say, can I submit a backup? They say, yes, we would like a backup. We wouldn't. It's up to them. So you're going to want to check this, and you fill out your 1-to-4, however you fill out your 1-to-4. So once you have your 1-to-4 filled out, guys, you're going to want to add this addendum for backup contract. And I'm just literally going to take a minute to read this because I know sometimes the legalese can get a little bit sideways, but it's super easy. It's one page that you have to fill out with this. And this says the contract to which this addendum is attached, the backup contract, is binding upon execution by the parties, and the earnest money and option fee must be paid as provided in the backup contract. So guys, you have to have an executed contract. They might be a little weird about executing the contract, but that's okay. You need to explain to them this is a backup. That's why we have the addendum. That's why I put that checkbox there. So what you're saying is they have already executed the contract. So you do need a signed contract, and you need a signed backup addendum. Okay. So, and you have to send in your earnest money and option fee just like you would do a normal contract, just like you would do a normal contract. So if you put $5,000 earnest money and $100 option fee, you need to send that $5,100 to the title company that this is being held with the contract and this. Now, this is where it gets a little bit confusing, and I can understand this. The backup contract is contingent upon the termination of a previous contract, the first contract, dated blank, for the sale of the property. Now, this is, like I said, this is an old property. Who cares? So you need to put the execution date here. So the first contract was executed on July 1st. Ours is executed on July 10th, whatever it might be, because we really, really love this house and we want to be a backup. So, but you need to put the execution date here. Except as provided by this addendum, neither party is required to perform under the backup contract while it is contingent upon the termination of the first contract. That's basically saying this contract doesn't mean jack unless the first contract falls through. The other thing that I see is a lot of people mess this page up, this section up, section B. If the first contract does not terminate on or before, pick your date, the backup contract terminates and the earnest money will be refunded. So with my previous example, let's say they have the first contract dated for July 1st. We come in on July 10th, right after the option period's over, and we say, hey, we want to be a backup. And they say, well, we should close by X, or we should have the appraisal back, or whatever it might be. Let's say it's July 30th. So that's what I would put here. The first contract does not, if the first contract does not terminate before July 30th, the backup contract terminates and all the earnest money is going to be refunded. So with this date in here, guys, you do not have to send in a release of earnest money to the title company. You simply cite this. You go, hey, look, it's July 31st, right? Is there 31 days in July? I don't even know. I'm terrible at that. Let's say August 1st. As you can see, that contract did not terminate. Can you please refund our earnest money and our option fee? And all that'll be back. Seller must notify the buyer immediately of the termination of the first contract for purposes of performance. The effective date of the backup contract changes to the date the buyer receives notice of the termination. So if they do terminate, let's say July 15th, they're like, oh, they couldn't do financing. Now that becomes the new date for the contract that you have sent it. It amends the effective date. Okay, right here, it amended effective date. So now you become July 15th. If you have a 10-day option period, it starts on July 15th, but they have to notify you, and you want that notification in writing, preferably like an email, something that you can save, knowing where that goes. That way you can submit it to the title company saying, hey, look, they've terminated. You should get the termination of contract from them and submit that as well, saying, hey, the first one terminated, mine now steps in. Everything starts on July 15th. I got 10-day option period, and you start your regular contract like that. An amendment or modification of the first contract will not terminate the first contract, so they can amend it if they need to. That doesn't count as termination. If the buyer has an unrestricted right to terminate the backup contract, the time for giving notice of termination begins on the effective date. So, guys, that's the option period. So it begins on that effective date, just like I said a minute ago. And for the purposes of this addendum, time is of the essence. Strict compliance with the time performance stated herein is required. Guys, this little phrase, time is of the essence, is a legal term that people use a lot, but I don't think you understand how important that is. You can't just tell somebody time is of the essence because that is considered a legal term. This is stating right here, you have got to tell me when that first offer terminates because the other contract pivots on that. If they do not do that, they are in violation of this backup contract. The seller can be in violation. It's probably a good idea to be a little pestering to the seller's agent because they may not know that they have, like, literally time is of the essence. You must do it. The buyer must immediately tell you. Okay. The seller must immediately tell you, and that is required by the stipulation of this contract. So buyers and sellers all sign this.